Hi there. Welcome to the Williamson Watcher Special Election Podcast. We are so pleased to bring you interviews with the current candidates in the Tennessee 7 Congressional Republican primary. Here were the rules. We asked the same set of questions to each candidate. We estimated each podcast would take about 15 minutes, but we allotted a half an hour block for each. We have held the release of the podcast until all the candidates wishing to participate were able to participate, therefore not giving an advantage to any one candidate. We invited all 11 candidates. We're happy to showcase here 7 candidates who are in the Tennessee Republican primary. The candidates joining us are Jody Barrett, Gino Bolso, Adolph Dagan, Mason Foley, Joe Leurs, Stuart Parks, and Trace Whittam. Stuart Cooper was unable to record due to scheduling conflicts. We did not receive a response from candidates Jason Knight, Lee Reeves, and Matt Van Epps. We hope you are able to watch or listen to all the candidates. You will certainly get to know the candidates better, become better informed on some of the issues, and perhaps be surprised by a candidate or two. Remember, we are not journalists. We are the Republican Party of Williamson County. Our goal was to have all of our Republican candidates do well and give them an opportunity to speak to you directly on their platform and ideas. They did not disappoint. As a follow-up, we are holding a debate on September 15th, 2025 at the Church of the Nazarene in Franklin at 7 p.m. We hope that you can attend and see for yourself the quality of candidates Tennessee 7 can produce. This debate will be moderated by Fox News and 99.7 WWTN commentator Brian Wilson. You can send us questions for the candidates at tennessee7@williamsongop.org. Now on to the Williamson Watchers. Welcome to the Williamson Watcher Podcast. I'm Peg Raciti with the Williamson County Republican Party. Alongside with me is my cohort, ever watchful Leanne Cates.
Hello.
Today we welcome candidate Joseph Leurs, who is running for Congress in Tennessee 7. Welcome, Hi. Joe Leurs. I guess I'm going to call you Joe Leurs.
Sure, you just go by Joe. Whatever you want to call me, it's fine.
Okay. Actually, the first question is pretty straightforward. We would love for you to tell us about yourself.
Where do I begin? Above everything, I'm a proud girl dad. I have an amazing 12-year-old daughter. I pour everything I can into her. I want her to understand what a great dad is, but more importantly, I want her to understand what a man is and how they should treat women, and how, as we walk through life, that men and women are different, and that's okay because that's the way God made us, to complement each other. So that's the big thing. I tell her all the time that you're the best thing I ever did. Aside from that, I served honorably in the military, both the Marine Corps and the Army. I am a Purple Heart recipient. I was wounded in combat in central Iraq on a reconnaissance mission in 2003. After I left the Marine Corps and before I joined the Army Reserve, I was actually a Metro Nashville police officer. And I worked my way up to be an undercover detective, and I worked in gangs and narcotics, basically the underbelly of society, to really understand how I can best protect you. So my goal was for you to think that I wasn't there. And by doing that, I dismantled a large gang organization that was bringing in illegal drugs, that was linked to the cartel, and the story goes on forever. It was a 1.5-year investigation that culminated with a lot of people getting arrested and doing some significant jail time because they were hurting Nashvillians and Tennesseans.
Wow.
So what compelled you to run for Tennessee 7 for Congress?
When I sit back and I look at what's going on in our nation, I couldn't sit back and just watch it happen. I have always been the one to run toward the danger. I did that in the Marine Corps right after 9/11. I could have got out of the Marine Corps right before 9/11, but I felt compelled to stay and serve. At my core, I'm a servant. I have a servant heart and servant leader. And I transformed that and went into the police work and did the same thing. And now I've got almost 30 years of education, both in the Marine Corps and in the police department, but also from Lipscomb University, where I have multiple degrees from that. By the way, I didn't have to pay anything monetarily. I had to pay with time with the 9/11 GI Bill. But I just watched the country being eroded from within. And unless good men and good women are willing to step up and say, this is not the America that we live in. This is not the America that our Marines, our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen, our guardians, and even our Coast Guardsmen are willing to protect and die for. I bled for this country, and I buried friends, all to keep you safe. And I would do it again if it meant that you would have a better quality of life. And moving into Congress, I bring all of that with me so that way I can best serve the people of District 7, the people of Tennessee, and our country.
And we appreciate that you've done all that, for sure.
You are very welcome.
You mentioned that you're a girl dad, and I think I've heard you quoted one other time that your daughter also knows what a woman is.
She does.
In that vein, I want to ask you, how do you define a conservative?
So a conservative is somebody that's fiscally responsible, that believes in the United States Constitution and all the rights that come with it. And we just want to be law-abiding citizens, and we want to be safe. And I don't believe in the government overreach that's happening. Our federal government is bloated, and that is not the way the Constitution was written. That is not what our founding fathers had envisioned for us. So as a conservative, it's somebody who just is law-abiding, who is God-fearing, and just moves forward to make a better life and support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Okay. Well, since you are about to be in a Republican primary election, we currently have open primaries here in Tennessee. So my question to you is, do you think that the Tennessee primaries should be opened or closed, and why?
I think that you need to pick the best person for the job. At the end of the day, I think that I'm the best person for the job with all the experience and traits that I bring to the table. But we want the voters to be able to vote and make their own decision, because the Constitution says that you are to elect people to represent you. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I believe that we should have primaries, both Republican and Democrat, and vote in. But at the core of what it is, the people need to have the ability to vote for who the best person is for the job.
Okay.
So, a question: have you spent any time in DC? On how will you protect yourself from the swamp?
That is a very great question. How do I protect myself from the swamp? I lived in the swamp. I moved through the swamp as an undercover detective. I moved through the swamp as a Marine. You need to have a certain amount of character and morality about you to stand up for what's wrong. And I look at the world maybe differently than most people. And I don't necessarily look for the bad, but I look for what's out of place. And that in and itself is the swamp. You have these politicians and these bureaucrats that are getting rich, and they're not looking after our best interest. I cannot be bought. I mean, I can tell you stories about working in the narcotics world to where there is money from the floor to the ceiling and then drugs from the floor to the ceiling. Nothing is worth compromising my integrity. And that's really at the base of what it's going to be. I can't be bought, and you're not going to jeopardize or question my integrity, and that is going to best serve District 7.
So that brings me to the follow-up questions about
Okay.
do you support banning members of Congress from trading stocks and the term limits? Do you support term limits for
So
members of
the first question about stocks, unequivocally, yes. Congressional leaders get, by definition, insider information, and then they buy stocks and they make money, or the exact opposite. And we saw in COVID, oh, I know this government is going to shut down. Let me liquidate all this stock so that way I can protect my money. That is inherently wrong. And there's a big push right now for people in the Congress to do that. And until we put people in Congress that believe, like you and I do, that that's fundamentally wrong, then it's never going to change. And I would totally support that. I am not wanting to go to Congress to get rich. I'm wanting to go to Congress to serve you and to be your voice. As far as term limits, again, completely agree with it. In fact, we know that with the House of Representatives, it's every 2 years. And I'm a firm believer that if they don't want to put term limits in place, which I would want, we have the opportunity every 2 years to vote people out that shouldn't belong there. And I think the real root is to let people understand that you have a choice. If your congressman, if your senator, if your president is not doing what they should be doing, then with the House, it's every 2 years you can vote. With the Senate, it's every 6 years. And obviously with the presidency, it's every 4 years. So we just need to mobilize people to understand that you have a choice and give the power back to the people.
Yeah. Well, you know that President Trump just signed an executive order recently regarding election integrity. Mm-hmm. And what steps, if you were to be elected to this district, what steps would you take, if any, to help codify the election integrity order that Trump signed?
I would certainly work. So executive order, by definition, is not law. I would work with the Congress to pass a law. I would in favor and support the idea of Election Day being a holiday. Paper ballots can't be hacked. We need to return to basics. For example, in Iraq, when they first started doing free elections, there was an easy way that we tracked to see if people were voting more than once. So they would go and vote, and then they would put like a purple dye on their finger that wouldn't wash off for days. So that way, when somebody walked up and they've got a purple dye on their finger, you know they've already voted, and you can just politely ask them to leave. There are controls. And now I am not advocating that we paint everybody's finger, but there are ways that we can secure the election and just return back to basics. Mail-in ballots, we see that is fraudulent. I can Xerox whatever I want, and then we have all this video surveillance of people dumping, piles of mail in there. So mail-in ballots need to leave. We need to have a holiday. We need to have paper ballots and to move forward. Now, with regard to our military, I would see how that might be where there could be a compromise. Because if somebody's overseas, certainly I want them to vote. And we can kind of control that a little bit better through, the chain of command and things of that nature to make sure that it's true. And so that is really, at the end of the day, what election interference, to keep that away, needs to happen.
Okay. One completely sort of shifting subjects here.
Sure.
If invited, would you be willing to join the Freedom Caucus?
I would have to look very deeply into it before I associate my name with somebody. I would want to know where money is coming from, what the agenda is, because at the end of the day, people trust me to speak for you. And I cannot do that if I don't have all the information. And these are the things that we need to understand, like when it comes to PACs and like all this other stuff. What is the underlying agenda? And obviously, if the underlying agenda aligns with the best interests of people in District 7, then absolutely I would support something like that. But until that happens, then I would say I would caution against it.
So shifting a bit to more of an international thing, because as a congressman, you'll have absolute international issues before you. So if you could take any topic, so this is sort of open, whether it's Ukraine or the Middle East, or let's say tariffs, can you speak a bit about one of your viewpoints on how you can add to that conversation and what you might focus on?
I could talk to you for hours about stuff like this. As a business owner and having an MBA and having those business acumens, as far as tariffs, they're great. They're going to help us. They're going to reduce the deficit. Now, with regard to national security, which I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want. The government's job is to protect us. And in the government, we have treaties with our allies. We need to support our allies, both with, troops, weapons, money, however that kind of shakes out. But they need to understand that they have a share of the pie as well. The American people are not the piggy bank. We are not going to put boots on the ground somewhere, because I was the guy with boots on the ground. And every day I have to live with the things that I saw and the things that I had to do in order to defend the American people. Now, as far as Ukraine, I 100% believe, and Vladimir Putin even said it, would not have happened had Trump been in office instead of Biden. We can stop wars before they start. I think that Hamas wouldn't have attacked Israel if Trump or another, it doesn't even necessarily have to be Donald Trump, just somebody with some backbone that has strong foreign policy. That wouldn't have happened. So I think that what we need to do is reassert ourselves as, hey, we're not going to do this. This is not the American way. And on the other hand, you are going to contribute because the United States is not your piggy bank.
Amen to that.
And Leanne, why don't you go ahead and take that final question?
Okay. Clearly, you have a lot of experience in military and protection and detective. And matter of fact, you'd probably I love murder shows.
I'll tell you that big cases don't get solved in an hour. It takes it takes a little bit longer than that.
So you've got a lot of life experiences in a lot of different areas. But which of your experiences would you say set you up best to be the congressman for Tennessee 7?
Look, we need to feel safe in our own communities. My wife doesn't walk outside in the dark without me, and we live in a safe neighborhood. I was just out on a greenway, and I didn't see very many people walking around, especially women. We need to have a sense of security. If the government can't protect you, that's what their fundamental job is to make sure that you're safe. These are the things that I want to do to make sure that Tennesseans are safe. I don't want cartel drugs to come in here. I was in Wayne County, and meth houses are a thing of the past because they're just bringing it in, and then it's poisoning their county. So we need to understand that if we can just crack this down and reinvigorate, restore the nobility to our law enforcement, get behind them, because clearly defund the police didn't work. Clearly, people aren't going to inherently do the right thing because we're people. And as a congressman, I want to make sure that I back the mass deportations of these criminals. I want to make sure that I back my brothers and sisters in blue, that every day when they wake up and they put that badge and gun on and they walk out that door, they know that it is a very real possibility that they won't come home. When I hear other military veterans talk about, I did 4 deployments, I did 6 deployments, I did 8 deployments, that's great. 100% agree. You served your country, and I'm glad you did it. The police officer does 365 deployments every year. And I did that for 10 years. And I'm not the only one. There are hundreds of thousands of police officers across the United States that keep us safe. We need to empower them, and we need to let them do their job, because inherently that's all they want to do is keep you safe.
Yeah. Well, we thank you for your service. We thank you for your dedication to law enforcement and for keeping us safe where you have served. And we thank you for your time.
You are
So,
very welcome.
best of luck to you in this race. And
All the
yeah,
best. Good luck. And
Thank you.
I guess your mileage is going to be high with all of the campaign events that you're driving to.
It's racking up, and honestly, on a day like today where it's nice, it's a good day to take the motorcycle out and go to an event.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's pretty excellent. Well, thank you. So nice to have met you, Joseph Leurs.
Thank you so much, ladies. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.